You guys gave me such great advice the last time I asked for your help, so I'm going to ask for it again. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I make videos about sewing and styling a handmade wardrobe. I made a video a few weeks back about pattern companies that I have never tried, and I was looking to get your advice and your experience with those companies, and I got a lot of really good informative comments. So I decided to branch out and continue that series and ask about sewing tools that I have not purchased myself, but some of them have been on my wish list for literally years. The first tool on my list is one that I'm pretty sure that I am actually going to buy. If not this year, then maybe next year. I've been thinking about it for a really long time. I think I might have even mentioned it on this channel before, but I still haven't taken the plunge, and that is a cam snap press. Anytime in the past that I have tried to do snaps with just hammering them in with a little tool, it always goes wrong. I know that you can do a lot of different things with the press, with rivets and jeans buttons and all kinds of things that I probably would use if I had one. So I've been wanting to buy one for a while, but I just hesitated because it's not something that I'm going to use all the time. But I think when I've asked about it in the past, you guys have told me if you do own one that you're glad that you haven't, even if you don't use it constantly. So the main thing that's holding me back now is I'm just trying to figure out what the best approach is. What I've been thinking about is that I would like to sew my dad a shirt at some point. And he was actually in an accident when he was a little boy and he lost the top joint of his thumb. And so it's really hard for him to do up buttons on shirts, so he prefers snaps. So I thought that that would be a really good time to actually just go ahead and purchase the press so that I can sew my dad a shirt, put on snaps without hopefully a ton of frustration. And what I was thinking was that I would probably just initially get the press and then whatever tools and dyes and supplies that I would need to make just that shirt, and then slowly acquire more tools over time when I figure out what I actually really need and what I would use them for, rather than trying to think of all that in advance and buy a package. Because I think my thinking before was like, well, I need to think of all the things that I would need and just order them all at once because of shipping or whatever. It would be more cost effective. But it's actually not cost effective if I buy a bunch of stuff and then I don't actually need it or I get the wrong thing. So I think the slower approach of just acquiring more dyes and whatever as I actually need them is probably the way to go. Let me know what you think about either of these approaches and if it has worked for you. I would really love your advice. I do think that I am really almost ready to buy this thing finally. I think that they did have a sale for Black Friday, but I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger. I didn't want to make a hasty decision and then regret it later. So I would love to hear from you guys. If you have a press, how much do you use it? What do you think of my acquisition strategy? I need your help, so please let me know down in the comments. Next on my list is a mini iron. Now, I fully admit that this one is a little bit more of just a curiosity for me. I don't think that I'm actually really going to buy this, but I'm sort of wondering, like, is it really worth it? Because I see posts on Instagram all the time about people who have mini irons and they say that they're like the most wonderful investment ever. I don't know if these posts are sponsored or not, they might be, but let's just say that they're genuine. I just keep hearing over and over that people really, really love having a mini iron. But I'm thinking to myself, like, do I really need one of those? Because I don't really travel with my sewing, or I don't really travel a lot in general. So I kind of feel like it's not a necessity for me. But on the other hand, I could see how it would be useful for sewing and quilting if you're just trying to get those little small areas and you're not ironing like a huge piece of fabric, because the iron does get kind of heavy sometimes. So maybe having a smaller one might be nice. So I'm leaning towards not getting this one, but I am just wondering, is it really true that once you have a mini iron, you feel like you could never have lived without it? Especially for someone who doesn't really go places with my sewing. I would love to know if you think that it's a necessity. This next one is another one that has been on my radar for probably over a decade and I still haven't bought it, and that is a pair of duckbill scissors. Now I know that supposedly they're really good for trimming seams because it keeps you from cutting layers that you don't actually want to cut. And I'm working on a jacket right now and I just had the problem of trying to trim just one part of the seam and then I accidentally ended up trimming another part that I didn't intend to cut. Fortunately, it wasn't the actual jacket, it was just a different part of seam allowance. So I can see how it would be something that I would probably use, but I also just don't really know if it's another thing that would just sit there that I wouldn't really reach for. So I am leaning towards possibly picking these up eventually. But you never know sometimes because I have bought a lot of tools over the years that I thought were going to change my life, and then they really didn't do much of anything for me. So I don't know if duckbill scissors would end up being one of those or if they would be really handy. And my other question about the duckbill scissors is, are they sharp enough to cut through really thick layers? Because the problem that I was having actually just recently, I'm working on a jacket that has denim on one side and then a fleece lining. So it's kind of thick. And I was wanting to trim just one part of the seam that had both of those layers. And I have some problems with the shears that I own, which I'll talk about in just a second. And I was struggling to cut through those thick layers of both the fleece and the denim at the same time. Are the duckbill scissors sharp enough to actually handle that? I'm sure it might depend on which ones you actually buy. If you have a specific recommendation, I would really love it if you would let me know. So that's where I am on the duckbill scissors, maybe leaning towards getting them, but also still wondering if they're really necessary. Let me know what you think. Before we go any further, I'll share with you what I am wearing. On top, I have on my Helen's Closet Cameron button-up shirt out of a white cotton shirting that I got from Emma One Sock. Then I'm wearing my black wool pinafore dress from Jennifer Lauren Handmade. It's the Dulcie pinafore. For an extra layer of warmth, I'm wearing my Burberry cashmere scarf. It's a vintage item that I got from The RealReal. I have on some lace tights, and I'm wearing my black Doc Marten Oxfords. All right, let's continue on with the video. So staying on cutting tools, and maybe I need to back up a little bit and explain. I use a rotary cutter and a mat to cut out most of my fabrics, like 90% of the time that's what I use. And I also have a pair of Ginger scissors that I had since I first started sewing back in 2005. They've served me for many years, but the problem is that a few times I've just been a dummy, and I can't really explain what I did, but I've nicked them a few times, so they don't cut cleanly anymore. So now I really only use them for cutting notches or cutting just the little detail work that I can't get with my rotary cutter. Or every once in a while, if I have a pattern piece that's just too large to fit on my cutting mat and I have to cut it out on the floor or something, then I'll use the scissors for that. But to be honest, my scissors do not work that well anymore because of the nicks in them, and I have gotten them sharpened, but that didn't solve the problem. So the reality is I probably really do need to buy a new pair of dressmaking scissors, but I really don't use them that much, so I haven't wanted to fork over the money. So my next tool I'm curious about is the Kai dressmaking shears. I know that people rave about them left and right. I don't know if they're really worth it or not. I swear to you that if I bought a new pair of shears, I would not be an idiot and like cut over pins or zippers or whatever I did the first time around to mess them up. I would take good care of them this time. So please let me know what you think of the brand, or if you think I should stick with Ginger, or if you have a different brand that you really love. I definitely am in the market for some new dressmaking shears, and it's something that I really truly probably should invest in if I'm going to keep sewing. The last cutting tool on my list is the Kai pinking shears. Now, I used to have a pair of pinking shears. I no longer have them because they were a Fiskars brand and they were terrible and they were really, really heavy and they literally hurt my hand trying to use them, and they actually didn't work very well. So I got rid of those. And at one point I also had an Olfa rotary blade that was a pinking blade. That also honestly didn't really work very well. So I've just lived without pinking shears for a good number of years now, probably for the past 5 to 8 years. I haven't had pinking shears. But every once in a while, I do think that they are handy because they're really good at eliminating bulk from seams because they do cut out quite a bit of fabric. So I think it might be worthy of adding them back to my lineup. Maybe they're not at the top of the list, but it would be something that I think would be nice to have. So I'm asking if the Kai pinking shears are a better quality than the Fiskars. I'm assuming they would be, or if there's another brand that you recommend. What do you think? Do you guys use pinking shears in your sewing practice, or do you just live without them? Please let me know what you guys do. Next up is a hot hem gauge. Now, for all the years that I have been sewing, whenever I need to do a hem, I do one of two things. I either eyeball it, which I fully admit is not always the most accurate, or I use my little metal seam gauge and I pin and then I iron. But the problem with that is that it's not always perfectly smooth, and sometimes my hem ends up being a little bit wonky. And so for years and years, I have wanted to invest in a hot hem gauge because I think it would be helpful. But I haven't bought one because there's so many different types out there. There's metal ones, there's silicone ones, there's straight ones, there's curved ones. And there's just too many different options out there, and I don't know which one is the best one that I actually need. So please let me know if you have one. First of all, do you love it? Do you use it? Do you think that it's worth it? And also, if you have it and love it, which kind do you use? Because I actually really would like to get one of these. I don't even think they're that expensive, but I've just felt paralyzed by all the different options and I get decision fatigue and then I end up buying nothing. I was leaning towards probably picking up the Clover brand because I have quite a few of their different accessories that I think are really good quality. But yeah, let me know what you use and which one I should get, because I really would like to invest in one of these, but I just can't make up my mind, so please help me out. The final item on my list is water-soluble basting thread. Now, I love the idea of this because I hate basting and I hate removing the basting threads. Sometimes I will try to use a contrasting color so that it's easier to see, but then sometimes you can't get all those threads out, and then I have a contrasting color that's visible. So it's just kind of annoying and a pain. So the idea is really appealing to me that I could just use this plasticky thread and leave it in there, and then when I wash it, it just comes out. But I'm a little bit unsure if it's going to leave a residue behind. Is it sticky? Does it fully wash out all the way? Is this something that I really need, or should I just suck it up? I definitely would probably invest in one of the brand names. Like, I think that Superior Threads has one and Madeira Threads has one. I likely would not buy like an Amazon off-brand or something on this one. Please let me know if you use water-soluble basting thread and you're sewing, and if you think that it's worth it. It's another little thing that I could probably live without, but also I do think that it could make my life easier. Like, imagine doing gathering. Like, when I do gathering stitches or easing in a sleeve or something, I normally do 3 lines of basting, just because I usually get the best results that way. And then it's such a pain having to go back in and remove all that thread. So if I could just leave it there and it would wash out, that would be fantastic. So those were all of the sewing tools that I am considering buying but haven't pulled the trigger yet. Thank you so much in advance for all of your advice. You guys always pull through for me, and I appreciate it so much. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.